Njengamanye amazwe amaningi emhlabeni jikelele, iNingizimu Afrika ibhekene nenkinga yokuntuleka komsebenzi kwentsha, ibalo ekhombisa ukuthi izinga lokungasebenzi kwabantu abasha lingamaphesenti awu-45.5 uma kuqhathaniswa nesilinganiso sikazwelonke singu-32.9% ngekota yokuqala ka-2024. Ukuze kunikezwe intsha amakhono ewadingayo ukuze iphumelele emsebenzini, imfundo ibalulekile mbukeli. Sekuyiminyaka engama-30 ukubusa intando yeningi, intsha isabhekene nokucwaswa kanye nokukhishwa inyumbazane esikhungweni sezomnotho sesizwe. Enye yeyinkinga ukuthi intsha edangele ngenxa yokungatholi imisebenzi. Namuhla mbukeli sixoxa ngokuntuleka komsebenzi kwentsha kanye what strides need to be taken to ensure that no one gets left behind. Asikubingelele ke mbukeli sikwamukele ohlelweni Asikhulume Let's Talk. Igama lami ngingubongiwe uMakhumalo waKwaZwane. Asikukhumbuze ke mbukeli ukuthi ungaba ingxenye lolu hlelo ngokushayela ucingo inombolo zethu zocingo 011-714-0677 noma 011-714-0678. Emakhasini okuxhumana our X handle SABC Izindaba, kuFacebook ke ikhasi lethu SABC Izindaba. Ukuze kubelula ke mbukeli sicela uqale #Asikhulume #SABC News bese ke ubhala umbuzo noma umbono wakho. Asikhulume. Mbukeli, njengoba sigubha inyanga yentsha kubalulekile ukuqaphela inkinga eintsha eningi yaseNingizimu Afrika ebhekene kanye nazo. Kudingeka ukuthi futhi mbukeli sihlole amathuba ambalwa abalulekile njengamanje nje anikezwa intsha yaseNingizimu Afrika emzamweni ukunqanda izinga elibi lokuntuleka komsebenzi. Umbuzo nokho uphakama uthi ngabe sekwanele yini okwenziwayo mayelana nalokhu? Joining us is Sanelisiwe Yankis, who is the Social Policy Manager at BUSA, that's Business Unity South Africa, as well as Aditi Lachman, who is the Head of Youth Programs at the Youth Employment Services. Let me thank you both for your time. I'll start with you, Aditi. Given the current state of unemployment in the country, what factors do you think seem to be the biggest problem to ensure that we overcome this crisis?
Hi, Bongiwe. Nice to be joining everyone. So getting straight to the point is South Africa right now is at a pivotal point. We have a number of issues that are affecting youth unemployment. Amongst them, and key to us, is economic state and structure. Is our economy right now is not growing, and this is impacting jobs and the demand for jobs within South Africa. And so that's a major aspect that we can work towards improving. The second aspect is around educational mismatch and the skills gap. There's often this disconnect between skills that young people have or leaving school with versus what the job market requires. And thirdly is limited access to opportunities. So many young people, especially in rural areas, have limited access to job opportunities. And so this includes both formal and informal markets. There's a number of other aspects that contribute to these issues as well. And so it creates these complexities that we are faced with right now.
Sanelisiwe, one of the things that is quite big is this issue of the skills mismatch. And when we talk about this, a number of people would say, how then do we ensure that this particular problem is overcome, especially when you look at some of the careers that the young people are choosing versus the skills that are needed on the job market?
Thank you, Bongiwe, and thank you so much for having me on the show. And definitely the skills mismatch problem is a problem that business faces as a whole. And we think that it needs to firstly be looked at holistically. Currently, we've got a very, very complex skills development system, and that's owing to so many things. And by way of example, we could be talking about the cumbersome, CETAs. We need to simplify and standardize forms and IT infrastructure. So there's so many different factors that contribute to the need to advocate for the agility in the skills development system, because currently it's not responsive to the pace of change. We've got several other factors that also that contribute to this. But for us as business, we definitely use the platform platform that we have from an advocacy perspective, and we think that there needs to be a skills-first approach. We need to shift from inflexible occupations, and there's so many models that our current government has been looking at to see how we can support digitalization as a core competency, and to also see how we can make sure that the skills are current, and through the several lists that we utilize, like the critical skills list, to make sure that that is fit for purpose, and it keeps up to the current pace of evolvement.
Before I come back to you, Aditi, Sanlisiwe, one of the things that, sometimes business gets criticized with is the fact that, some of the companies will be looking for experience when these young people must be employed, especially when they come from school. And some of them would say that, but how do I gather that particular experience enough for me to be able then to get a foot in the door? How do you work around those issues?
I'm so glad you actually asked that, and I'm also so glad that our other participant is from an incredibly involved stakeholder that deals with the hiring of excluded youth that need that kind of work experience. And also business is also in the area where we need to make sure that that skilling element to unlock these jobs is taking place. And I'm quite confident in saying that business has really stepped up to the plate. We did acknowledge that we're facing these significant economic challenges in a highly uncertain environment where youth unemployment poses quite a big significant risk to social stability. And I think in doing so, there's been several initiatives, but perhaps to use an example, at a high level, we have now come up with a business and government actually in collaboration initiatives that looks at scaling up these initiatives like YES, and also maybe like Harambee, to make an example. Our goal is to increase the number of new that are productively engaged in learning and earning opportunities, where business and government are already making progress. There's several others like Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. So we can confidently say that there are so many of these that are currently within the labor market, where we are trying to do more and ensure that the excluded youth that actually doesn't have these opportunities, and there's so many of these barriers to access, are able to access jobs that where they can contribute to the economy effectively. So several things are in place, and I think we've already done such impressive, actually incremental work so far.
Aditi, I'll pose the same question to you, because the issue of experience is a huge one, especially for young people who say that I've just come out of school and I don't know now if I need to go look for a job, and they ask me for this job experience. Where am I supposed to find it?
Yeah. Definitely, and at YES, we deal with that on a daily basis from youth, but also then working with corporate companies to connect and break that divide. The saying, I can't get a job without experience and I can't get experience without a job is such a common occurrence in South Africa. And so bridging that opportunity gap is key to break those barriers for young people, while allowing businesses to see the opportunity that young people can provide as well. And so at YES, we work with the private sector to create these 12-month quality work experiences where you can gain skills on the job. There's a learning component around understanding the core skills you need within the workplace to thrive as well. And then the additional support to understand, are youth being supported within the work environment as well? So experience is definitely something that's key. What we see is that confidence is an outcome of experience. And so the more experience you have, the more transferable skills you can develop and become more employable.
Aditi, I'm staying with you because there's a young person watching us now who says that, but how do I get access to, the YES program? Do I need to complete my matric? Do I need to have had a tertiary qualification? What are the requirements?
Yeah. So YES works to break that barrier for young people, especially the ones without experience and are currently unemployed. And so we work closely within the Presidential Youth Initiative with our partners like Harambee And so accessing many of these YES opportunities can be accessed through sayouth.mobi, for example. Where YES comes in is to create those connections with corporate companies to create these opportunities. They are across different sectors, different types of roles. What we do see as well is there's a large majority of our YES youth that simply have a matric certificate right now. And it's that entry into the job market that is critical for them. And that is something we're seeing as a leverage point with a lot of the companies we work with to create this opportunity for experience that research is showing can supersede at times formal education, tertiary education as well. So yeah, for us, it's connecting youth with companies and closing that opportunity gaps where they are.
So those who don't have matric, what happens?
So the education system has various opportunities. Having a matric certificate right now is critical, and it's important when we look at demand for work opportunities as well. So while we try to create experiences and opportunities for youth across different qualification levels, is what we are seeing is that the majority of work opportunities available require at least a matric certificate. And so there are many opportunities, there's many programs out there within the South African ecosystem as well that are helping young people at minimum elevate to a matric certificate. A matric certificate is critical right now, and so multiple initiatives are in play beyond just YES to help youth get to that level at least.
But let's pause for a second and take a quick break. Mbukeli, sisatishele $8 siyabuya unganyakazi. Mbukeli, siyaqhubeka nengxoxo yethu yokuthi singalwa kanjani nokuntuleka kwemisebenzi. Kodwa ngaphambi kwalokho, let's watch this insert.
There's so many young people who are not employed right now. There are no jobs. I don't think there's no jobs, just that we are not looking enough. I think it's that. But the jobs that are there, we earn less. Yeah, but we studied, but we're still earning less.
A lot of unemployment going on in South Africa, and there's nothing being done since.
Especially at Vlakfontein, yes.
Like everywhere, Vlakfontein, Soweto, Johannesburg, Alexandra, etc. Like they've busy been eating our money, spending our money on their own. They don't think about the homeless. There's a lot of homeless people around our areas.
It's not 3 years isihleli la. Imsebenzi ayikho siyavota abasithembisa ukuthi man vote nizothola umsebenzi. Masicela ukuvota dololo. Yaqhubeka badla imali yethu eParliament kuphi badla imali yethu nje.
The unemployment rate yasibulala vele ya. Njengamanje thina ke ufika kamnandi sister ufika kubo kwi-group lapha eJoes because of umsebenzi. Mawungaya lapha e45 ne eDepartment of Health kunama security alala lapha ya. From 3 months silala lapha ya.
Ezinye zembono zabanye abaselula kweli nabaphawula ngelishwa lentswela-ngqesho eMzantsi Afrika. Amanani ophando aveza ukuba lentswela-ngqesho ichaphazela kanobomi isimo sezoqoqosho. Njengokuba eli libhiyozela inyanga yolutsha, eyona nto iphambili kulo yinkxalabo yentlupheko, unqwaba kwemisebenzi kwanesimo sokungalingani. Kulo msitho obhiyozela le nyanga yolutsha, usekela mongameli uPaul Mashatile ugxininise ukubaluleka kweteknoloji ekuphumezeni udabi lokulwa lentswela-ngqesho.
We need to equip young people with the necessary skills to adapt to the labor market, but especially to the 4th industrial revolution. This means that we must take more steps to connect our communities to ICT infrastructure. In April of this year, I had the honor of launching phase 2 of South Africa Connect program with Minister Mondli Gungubele here in Limpopo, which intends to bridge the digital divide between the wealthy and the disadvantaged.
Ulutsha lukhuthaza ukuba urhulumente angenelele ngokuxhasa uphuhliso lwezakhono khona ukuze lukwazi ukungena emisebenzini.
The opportunities that the government can create for the youth, instead of giving them the 350 every month, they can take that money, invest into the youth, maybe people who want to start businesses, and also people who are looking for maybe, how can I put it, empowerment. Yes, like youth empowerment, and also skills. We have certain skills which are very scarce, and there are very few people who have access to institutions that can train them to get those skills.
Eli lijamelene nesikhewu sonqongophalo lwezakhono. Kunenkolo yokuba eli lidinga inkxaso-mali nengqeqesho yokuxhasa oosomashishini abasakhasayo khona ukuze kwehle izinga labo bangaphangeliyo. Kwiindaba ze-SABC, ndingumusa Mkhaliphi.
Mbukeli asiqhubeke nehambeli zethu sikhulume noSanelisiwe Jantjies, who is the Social Policy Manager at BUSA, Business Unity South Africa, as well as Aditi Lachman, Head of Youth Programs at the Youth Employment Services. Let me thank you both for staying on with us. Let me come to you, Aditi. When you look at a number of discouraged job seekers, we see this, as a statistic when the job numbers come out and all of that. How do you reach those young people?
So for us, job numbers in South Africa is a critical factor or a key indicator of where we are going as South Africa. And it can cause a lot of depression at times. It can also create opportunity for how do we use these opportunities of crisis to create something new. So whenever the employment numbers do come out for us, it's not just those moments, but throughout the year, throughout the process, is to engage youth in understanding how they can leverage the current affairs in South Africa, how they can look for opportunities, especially in future-facing sectors that many young people might not be aware of. When we talk about future-facing sectors, we are talking about areas like information technology, drones, the creative environment within South Africa as well.
Yeah.
So from a yes perspective, for us, it is to engage youth, to create more awareness of opportunities and where they can search for these in-demand skills, how they can make themselves more employable by upskilling in skills that are transferable across sectors and industries and job roles as well.
So when then it comes to, Sanelisiwe, with this issue, particularly when you think about the fact that right now we do have some young people who say that for them, internet, the digital divide, as you were talking about it also, is quite a critical thing. Let's talk about how do we begin to address the data costs, because sometimes to go to a website like youth.mobi requires you to have data, and some of our viewers are from rural areas where sometimes the coverage isn't even that great.
And I don't mean to speak for my colleague that's also on the line,
Yeah.
but the really great, incredible thing about the youth.mobi and as well as some of the initiatives that work with it is that they have developed a way to actually use those apps without data. And I think what we're actually looking at is a way to, first of all, spread that message, but make sure that what is available is being used to scale. And I think there's a bit of a disconnect between what we have on offer and also making sure that it reaches the South African youth. Because if we did listen to some of those snippets, we are looking at a youth, a large portion of the youth that's definitely depressed of not having viable income. And the effect of society, then, the strain on public finances, the reduced consumer spending, and it goes on, and all of it comes back down to reaching the excluded youth that we have. So that's definitely one way that we do see that not only are these platforms powerful, they definitely can be utilized more.
All right, we'll talk about that issue of data because, after the break, I'm still keen to hear how you as business navigate this one, but also the YES program. How do they also navigate this one? Because the issue of data is a huge one for the young people in South Africa. Mbukeli, siyabuya khona manje. Mbogeli, as we wrap up our discussion, it's also important ukuthi sizwe ukuthi nina nithini einkundleni zethu zokuxhumana. Ake sibone ukuthi nithini ku Facebook. Ucela umusa uthi ayikho nje sitalo kunzima kulelizwe abasezikundleni bayicabangela bona nemndeni yabo abanendaba nentsha engasebenzi. Uthami uthi ayikho nhlobo ngithande ubaba ebengimlalele kubasiki bebunda izolo uthi uPresident Ramaphosa imaphi lamandla azoza nawo manje ekubeni akhande abantu abawu6 million abangasebenzi. Busisiwe Zikhali mina angeke ngithi khona noma ayikho kodwa engikubukayo amathuba okungasebenzi kwentsha asazonyuka kakhulu ngoba siyalabe bancane khona abantu abazoqashwa. The rest yemisebenzi izokwenziwa robotically okuyingxenye ye-technology esiyibona ikhula ngokushesha. Maybe uma abasezikhundleni bengazama ukuxhasa kakhulu ngakulentsha eziqalele amabhizinisi abo kungaba ngcono kakhulu. Mbogeli asiqhubeke futhi nje siphetha nje sikhulume nehambeli zethu. Aditi, some of the viewers there are saying that for them it's important that they also get supported when it comes to the businesses that they've started, and others are talking about the fact that as young people they're still struggling to be able to find employment. Some of this they also speak about the issue of robotics, for example, that some of the companies are moving to more technologically advanced equipment and that may not need people. So these are some of the concerns that these young people are voicing, and I wonder, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, very, very valid concerns from our youth and looking at the outlook of job opportunities and how we not only look at securing a job, but when we are in a job, how do we keep going on to future jobs, improving our career development? So very valid concerns, rightfully. In terms of opportunities, as Analesi mentioned, is it exists. There are many opportunities out there, but what is the key challenge between communicating with youth at large within South Africa and ensuring that they drive themselves towards that support initiatives? When we want to talk about entrepreneurship within the Presidential Youth Initiative, we also work with the NYDA, National Youth Development Agency, that has a vast number of opportunities available for entrepreneurs on a small scale. Creating entrepreneurship is a key goal for us at YES. For us, that is where we see youth as game changers in terms of youth themselves creating more employment opportunities for other young people as well. A key aspect around those opportunities, how do you find them? How do you keep them? A key aspect is around networks. We might be all too familiar with social networks. And what we've seen is that we are not leveraging networks or social networks in particularly greatly for job opportunities or looking for employment. Is we use TikTok, we use Instagram, we may not be using LinkedIn as effective as possible to create those bridges with employers as
Such an important, conversation you're starting there, and I do hope that we get to expand on it in future. But briefly then, Sanelisi, as I give you the final bite here in about a minute, let's talk about the importance of what, Aditi is talking about, the networking, the using of social media correctly, because that's also where business looks for some of these young people.
Definitely, completely. And we're looking at a populace that uses social media and actually effectively uses the power of social media to be able to convene themselves, even outside of unemployment issues. And I think, firstly, that is incredibly commendable. And I think one of the things that we do reiterate in the initiatives that we have, that we are trying to bring up to massive scale, is that we have a capable youth. We have a youth that firstly wants to work, and a youth that only needs, number one, resources, and secondly, development. And if we were able to use what we have and collaborate in ways that actually matter, social media would definitely be at the center of bringing together the youth that are looking for absorption into the labor market. So completely on board with that. And I think as Business Unity South Africa, we are definitely at a policy and an advocacy level, and even outside of that particular scope, we are engaging heavily with respect to the usage of social media, social media apps, and digital platforms.
Let me thank you both for your time, and I do hope we speak again to arm our young people with more information. It's really been insightful. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Mbukeli, siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi nawe uhlanganyele kanye nathi nehambeli zethu. Usanelisiwe Jantjies, who's the Social Policy Manager at Business Unity South Africa, as well as Aditi Lachman, Head of Youth Programs at the Youth Employment Service. Mbukeli, asithembe ukuthi ingxoxo izoqhubeka emakhasini ethu okuxhumana. Okakhumalo wakazwane nethimba le Asikhulume sithi ayixabene.